Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. You probably know my guest, Dr. Graves. He is the author of Jurisdictionary. It is basically like going to law school without the cost and without the hassle, without the confusion. And you can do this basically if you wanted to power through in a weekend. I'm going to show you all about that. This is what I have been using to help myself understand the procedures in terms of what goes on in a courtroom. I've had the unfortunate experience, I should say, of having been to court a few times over the last couple of years, but I felt empowered because I understood rules of evidence, I understood hearings, I understood the parties involved. But Dr. Graves, I just want to thank you for coming back. I want to thank you for writing this jurisdictionary, which you'll find in a program, everyone, called How to Win in Court. Stay tuned. I'll show you that. Will also have it linked for you below. So tell us first about why you created this program. You spent, well, I don't know how much time, but you gave everyone what they needed, A to Z, literally with a dictionary. And I'll go through it a little bit as you're talking.
Okay. Well, I practiced law for 10 years and I got pretty good at it, actually, by simply having a judge say to me, probably in one of my first hearings, he said, "Don't you lawyers ever read the rules?" So I read the rules and I found out that they're really very simple. And that opened my eyes when I see all the things that are going on around our country where people seem to be disillusioned and disenfranchised, and angry, and don't know what to do. And so the idea started in 1997 with just some very simple things about the elements of a cause of action, a little bit about the rules of evidence, and it just has grown for 26 years, Miss Hall, and it's helping bunches and bunches and bunches of people. And I feel right now in this particular time that it's critically important for us all to find something we can believe in together. I like to think that maybe the rules of justice, the rules that make this mechanism called America work for all of us, I believe those can be found in the rules of court, the rules of evidence, and the common law principles for the common man. Common law, common sense for the common man. And so I've been working, I think, pretty hard for the last 26 years to try to encourage people to find that there are a whole bunch of things here we can believe in once again and be wise once again by coming together and understanding that that courthouse really does belong to us. And the judge really is a salaried employee who's obligated to enforce those rules. And so the only thing that's missing is for us to know what the rules are and how to use them tactically. And it seems that God has given me a gift for making complicated things ridiculously easy to understand.
That
That's
is
what it really comes down to.
that is a gift. And I've spoken many times on the show about the power of confusion and how confusion can be used as a tool. And sadly, and we'll find that in any industry, but we certainly see it in the legal profession, where you'll have forms and documents that are written so in a fashion that are so complicated. And perhaps there is a reason for that. But when you can simplify something and break it down and make it understandable, digestible, it does put the power in the hands of the people. And that I'm a huge proponent of education as an educator for my entire life. And when I took this program of yours, and I came across it before I started my legal action, which was not, I was not a plaintiff trying to sue for money. In fact, my suit is still ongoing. And there's one final hearing for a simple declaratory judgment, which I'd love to hear your definition of that. But what it empowered me to understand what goes on in a courtroom. I have, I would say, a passion for justice, for what is right, for learning about rights, for teaching people about their rights, for coming up with clever ways to stand for your rights. But when it comes to the procedures and making motions and introducing evidence and having the hearings and even the vocabulary that is used, I didn't know about that because I had never been to court. So number one, I loved learning. I love that I was using my time in a productive, positive way. And that knowledge can never be taken from me, right? The bad guys can try to do whatever they want to stop me from living in freedom, but they can't take away my knowledge that I've acquired. And it's very empowering also when you get out of your emotional or even psychological despair of the sky is falling and I don't know what to do. Well, you can educate yourself and you can feel empowered and encouraged and inspired. And so when I engage the intellectual aspect of myself rather than just the emotional, I feel so much better. So those were a couple of gifts that I got from taking this course. And in fact, I'm reviewing it because there is so much there. But let's shift a little bit away from the course itself, because before we came on live, I said, how are you doing? And you said, I'm worried about our country.
Oh,
tell me a little bit more about that, and again, how we can have the tools to make an impact.
I sure hope somebody's listening. I really do. I will try to say this succinctly. It's easier if I write it down. I don't stumble with my words, but here we go. America is not a place, it's a plan. It was planned years before 1776, maybe centuries before, by men and women who dreamed of a government that the people could control. I, I think it's a beautiful idea. William Penn called it the holy experiment. George Washington called it the grand experiment, and it's an experiment, but it's a plan, just like we would plan an airplane. We're going to build an airplane, so we're going to have wings, we're going to have some kind of ailerons and a rudder, somehow to control all these things. But you put them all together, and if you have a good plan and you work the plan, the airplane will fly. America is a mechanism, just like an airplane, and it has rules. And I remain fully persuaded, and I think that in the past 26 years, I've done a fairly good job of proving to at least 50 or 60,000 people so far that those rules are not hard to learn. And when we learn the rules and we understand these things, how it works, now we don't have to be afraid of it. In fact, we can actually come together, find out what these things are, these rules that make the mechanism work for us as it's supposed to. I mean, after all, governments don't exist for the sake of our leaders. Governments don't exist for the sake of government. Government exists for the sake of the people. That governments are designed and empowered, and in fact, the only justification that any government has throughout history has been to serve the needs of the people and to provide for peace and prosperity, to be orderly and regulated in a way that we can all abide by, not to be ruled, but to be governed. Well, the thing that excites me is the idea that somebody that's listening to me now, and other people that are beginning to listen to me, there are quite a few are finally beginning to listen to me, that when we look to see this nation governed by a mechanism that right now is pretty much out of control. The bickering and the fighting is missing the essential ingredient, which is for the people themselves to believe in America, for the people to be wise again. In fact, we have that slogan now, make America wise again. And the way to do that is to understand the mechanism. And to understand an airplane, we have to understand that there has to be some kind of engine, some kind of propulsion to cause the airplane to move forward. There have to be wings. There have to be certain ingredients, but what it comes down to, and what's exciting and what is making the course so popular increasingly, and we're so thankful for that, is that these rules are really, really, really super simple. None of them are complicated if you take them one at a time. If you just look at it and say, oh, it's too complicated. Well, it is. It's like trying to eat an elephant. You can't eat an elephant. You have to eat elephant one bite at a time. And when you go at these rules, rules for the court. There's rules for Congress. There's rules for your local PTA meeting. And when we find out what these rules are and make up our minds that it's in our best interest and in the best interest of our children and the future of this nation that must survive, it's up to America to survive and set this standard for the rest of the world. But for us to survive and maintain and support this mechanism, we need to learn what are the rules that make it work. Just like an internal combustion engine, there's these pistons going up and down, up and down, up and down. They don't go sideways.
They want to take those away from us. The internal.
Up and down. But you see, they can't unless we let them.
Thank you.
We let them with apathy and indolence. We let them by simply believing that there's no hope. Well, we've got to get rid of that idea. And we've got to get rid of the idea that somebody's trying to get us. You know, the biggest enemy we have is this thing called believing falsehood. You talk about health, Ms. Hall, and we both know that, you know, to be extreme, you know, if I believe it's good for me to drink Clorox, I will pay a penalty because it is not good for me. And to believe a lie and to follow a lie or to be a proponent of a falsehood is the farthest thing from being a patriot. So I keep believing and hoping and praying and working very hard to encourage people to believe that we can understand what these rules are. They're wonderful rules. They're fair. They support the little guy. They protect the innocent. And once we know more about them, I believe then we can come together and hold hands and stand against the darkness and say, no, we're not going to let you win. You don't win. The darkness is not going to win because we believe in these principles that these men and women understood before they went to Philadelphia in 1776. Did that sound okay? I don't know what I said. It just kept talking. I can just talk forever about it. I don't want to bore anybody.
Well, that's your passion, Dr. Graves. And in our discussions that we've had before, that was something that really struck me, because a lot of people will say, Peggy, the courts are so corrupt, the judges, the attorneys are slimy. I can't find anybody to take my case. Well, that's one reason why you should take this course, because it's called How to Win in Court Without a Lawyer. But I actually have lawyers, and it helped me be more educated in terms of we saved time and money during our own conferences because I understood a lot of what they were talking about in terms of the procedures. And you have great faith in this branch of government. And just a reminder to our viewers, because I know they're not teaching civics any longer. They meaning evil can thrive in ignorance, and ignorance being that we're not educated or up to date on important information that sometimes they obfuscate, they confuse, and they hide from us. So there are three branches in our government. There's the executive branch, right, which is the president, the governor in your state, the mayor in your city. They can't make laws, although they try to with these orders, and those are challenged in court. And then the legislature passes bills after a procedure in those houses, both at the federal level and at the state level, and even in your city council. They have some procedures. It's not one person making a law, but if these laws are violating constitutional laws in your state and in the United States, then they can be challenged.
That's right. So, and where are they challenged?
In the judicial branch, in the court system. And this is, you're a champion of this.
That's right.
Tell us more about why we need to be as encouraged and positive about that as you are.
Well, in India, they call their Supreme Court the bulldog of the nation. The judicial branch is pretty much been hiding behind the curtain. You remember the Wizard of Oz? He's behind the curtain. And we don't really know what's going on. And what we see on the news is just a little blurb about this and a blurb about that. We don't know that there are rules that these justices are required to follow. There are these doctrines that they are required to enforce. And often, especially in these times, and at various times in the past, extremely so in these times, the judiciary has become politicized. If if I could just push a button and all of you that are hearing me right now would know what I know, that you would understand why it just shocks my mind to hear anybody talk about that justice is liberal or that justice is conservative, because they're not supposed to be liberal or conservative. They're like somebody that's going to tune a carburetor on a car. You tune the carburetor. There are rules. You tune the carburetor. There's a certain way you do it. That's the way you do it. It's not about whether somebody doesn't like it that way, or that we should have a committee meeting, or oh my, that might step on somebody's shows. No, the idea is that the courts are supposed to be regulated by a set of rules that nobody knows. I know them. A handful of people know them. A lot of lawyers know them, but they're so busy making money doing other things that they're not doing what I do. I want to teach America and make America wise again by getting them to finally make an effort, whatever it takes, to promote this idea of really truly understanding what the judiciary is, because it is the power of the people. It's there. It belongs to you. William Blackstone said this 200 years ago. If I may, I'll just quickly, I won't take but a moment. I'll just right here.
Sure. Yeah. So remember, everybody, it's called How to Win in Court, and you can find that over at thehealthyamerican.org and click under resources. And I will also have a link for you below.
Old book, Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law. Look, there you go. Okay, and here's another book. Just a moment.
All right. A lot of my viewers are familiar with that book.
All right. Here's another book.
Oh, a lot of my viewers are familiar with that book as well.
All right. Now, here's what you don't know. Maybe if you had those two books and a good horse and a .45 revolver and maybe a Winchester Model 30 lever action 30-30 rifle, you'd ride out west and you'd find a little place. Maybe there's a pretty tree or something, or a creek running through, and you put down stakes and you set up a courthouse. Maybe the courthouse is in a saloon. A lot of them were. And you said, no, we're going to have law and order. You're not, you people aren't going to come into town and shoot up the town and take advantage of our girls. And no, we're not putting up with that. We're going to have law and order. Well, how did they know what the law was? How did they do this? Well, for one thing, they had determination. They made up their minds that we're not going to have a wild, wild west. We are going to have cities and railroads and commerce and children going to school and being safe in school. And here they were. And all they had to go by, 2 books that for the most part aren't read today, even the black. So we don't know what America is. We don't realize what an amazing holy experiment, like William Penn said, that it is. And we can know this, we can do this, but we need to come together and do it. I can't do it for you. I can't know this for you. That doesn't do anything for you. But once you begin to realize America's special, we aren't France. We aren't Spain. We don't do things the way other countries do. Well, at least we used to not do things that way. Now we're doing things the wrong way. We're doing a lot of things that we should not be doing. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or an independent or whatever you want to be. There are too many things that are being done that should not be done. And the people are powerless unless they know how to go to court and force that third branch of government, the judiciary, to do their job and enforce the law. It's not just the Constitution. It's these fundamental principles, these rules of reasoning, rules of juridical reasoning, it's called, rules of reasoning that judges are supposed to follow when they are interpreting the law and whether or not it's a right law or a bad law. And we've lost that because now we have these people as you're either a Democrat or you're a Republican, or you're whatever. You either believe in this or you believe in that. And if you don't believe with me, then you must be wrong. And I don't like you anymore. And I can't live in the same neighborhood. It's got to stop. And I believe that if we would lift this lamp, this light, this beautiful light that can shine into the hearts of men and women and children throughout the world, that we can be the shining beacon for civilization to show people it will work. If we will just understand these principles that those men and women understood when they came together in Philadelphia. Many people never stop. I talk to people all the time about it. People don't stop to think about a fellow, maybe he's a farmer in Georgia. He ends up in Philadelphia on July 4th. Actually, they got there earlier and they sat around for quite a while, didn't sign the paper till the 4th of July. Well, how'd he get there? He didn't fly. He didn't take a bus. He didn't drive his car. He probably rode horseback or in a horse-drawn wagon. And they went there from Alabama. They went there from Maine. They went there from Connecticut. They went there from New York and Maryland. And why? Because they believed in something that America needs to believe in again. And what did they believe in? They believed in a set of rules by which men and women can abide in peace with one another and promote a reasonable degree of prosperity for each other and make this world safe again. It's got to be done, Ms. Hall. This has to be done. Somebody has to hear what it is. I'm struggling. I know I'm not saying it as well as it could be said, but somebody has to hear what it is that I'm trying to say and to say it, to speak it up, to stand against the darkness, stand against the anger, stand against all the anti-American sentiment that's going on. You don't have, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, I don't care, but love America. Know what America is, and stop thinking America is some bunch of politicians. America is not a bunch of politicians. America is a mechanism that was designed by some really brilliant people to promote a situation where we would have land, where we could occupy land, do our thing, enjoy life, have happiness, have children, have a home, plant corn in the backyard, grow chickens, whatever, but live here in peace with each other. And we can't have peace without order. You can't have order without rules. Please urge people, learn the rules that make America wise.
Thank you, Dr. Graves. That's a big takeaway from one of our previous conversations that we had. You talk about division and how that is the exact opposite of what needs to be done, because that makes people more isolated, more easily manipulated. And something that really troubled me over these last few years that we've been, more and more people have been waking up, seeing what's going on and feeling and experiencing this trampling on their rights and feeling frustrated and not know what to do. The result for a lot of people was that they threw up their hands and they said, that's it. The country's going down the tubes. There's nothing we can do about it. America is gone. And my outlook is that's exactly what they or the evildoers or the darkness or those who wish to control us, that's exactly what they want you to do. They want you to give up on America. And I see it also as an idea, there's an American spirit. There are things that make us American that have nothing to do with our skin color, with our age, with our national heritage, with where we live. These are things such as self-reliance, innovation, yes, creativity. Yes. For many people, it's faith. But even the country welcomes all without faith. That's the beauty of it. It's individual initiative. And these are individual liberties that when we are pursuing them, that is what makes the country great. So I will never give up on that. And I do believe that, and I'm going to use those words, creativity, innovation, self-reliance, self-sufficiency, desire to improve. Americans, by and large, there's a spirit of compassion, of wanting to seek to understand others. So those are things, friends, that I don't think we need to give up on, that we can't give up on that. And where else are you going to go? I've traveled many countries. I've lived in other countries.
Mm.
What's your take on that, Dr. Graves, about where else are we going to go?
Well, I went to Haiti some years ago. I don't want to live there. I didn't want to live there then. People lived in packing crates. Um, no, but it's the rules. I want to come back to that because that way it's simple.
Yes.
If we make it 14 things or 127 things that people have to know, it's they're not going to want to do that. But if they could just understand there's a very small set of rules that are codified. They're in the old books. And the old judges, if you go back to the early 18th century for certain, and you read some of the old appellate court opinions, and if you were a West Virginia farmer, you'd read that opinion and you might have an accent like West Virginia farmers have, and you might say, yep, that one makes sense to me, Bubba. And people would see that it did make sense, that decision in 1823 or whatever it was a good decision. It was the right decision for all of us. It wasn't just the right decision for those people that were involved in the case. It was the right decision for all of us. It was the right decision for America. Today, we have decisions that are the right decisions for General Motors or a pharmaceutical company. And those are not the right decisions. And as long as the people remain powerless by not knowing what I teach, whether they learn it from me or go to the law library and try to figure it out out of those 1,000 books, I don't care where you learn it. If you've got that much chutzpah, go do it. But if you don't learn the rules, you don't learn how to control the judiciary, and the judiciary continues to be politically slanted one way or the other, and we're going down the slippery slope. We don't have to, but I put the responsibility on the shoulders of the American people. I'm not waiting for a politician to save us. I don't believe it's going to happen. I don't care who they are, how charismatic they are, how much money they have. That doesn't get it. It never has. I mean, we've had some leaders that maybe bumped us up a notch. But to think that all of this is going to happen somehow by osmosis without the people themselves getting involved in controlling the judiciary and taking an interest in the judiciary. I mean, let me just tell you one thing that I keep dreaming about. Someone will hear my voice eventually and be able to understand what I'm really trying to say. Imagine a 24-hour justice channel, a cable channel, 24 hours, 7 days a week. And if you came home and somebody took your children because Aunt Susie lied about you, you could turn on the Justice Channel. There might even be a directory where you could learn that, okay, well, on Tuesday night at 8:30, there's going to be a program that's going to tell you how to bring a case for slander. Somebody lied about you. Your children are gone. Now you can fight DCF, if you want to. You can go into family court and fight and fight and fight and get nowhere, because the root of the problem isn't DCF. The root of the problem is Aunt Susie. She lied about you. Now your kids are gone. Well, that's not right. That's not America. And if we had the money to put this thing together, I'm not asking for money. I'm just saying somebody has to do it. Maybe somebody else will do it. But the idea is to have these well, they're not mechanisms, have these sources of information that are made ridiculously easy to understand. They're entertaining, educational, informative, and empowering. It's doable. And if we don't do it, well, where are we headed? I don't like the way we're headed right now. I don't think we're headed in a good direction. There are so many activities on the internet right now which basically are flooded with people who are just basically angry people, and just cursing everything that's honorable, not understanding that in the midst of all of this is hope and unity and love. And we can do that. We just reach out with our hands. We can embrace unity. We can embrace hope, and we can use love to motivate ourselves and to motivate other people to save this nation. Save the entire world is waiting for us to lift this light and do what's right. And whoever's running the show right now, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, They're not doing what's right anymore. They're not following those old rules that were codified back when John Jay was the first Supreme Court justice in the United States. He had a good mind. He had a good heart. He believed in God. He knew that there's a consequence for doing things the wrong way, and he wanted to do what was right for the sake of the nation and the people, the American people. Today, it's what's good for this minority or this subculture or this particular collective or this particular pharmaceutical company and so forth and so on. And we could just go on and talk about what's wrong, but it isn't helping anyone to sit around talking about what's wrong. Let's get together. Let's get together, churches, PTA groups, Kiwanis groups, Rotary Club, anybody that we can find that would organize and come together and say, hey, this man Graves is right. We need to stand up for America and call down these people that are trying to undermine everything and to discourage everyone, especially the young people, from believing in these wonderful, wonderful rules that make civilization possible.
And friends, you can find out about these rules in Dr. Graves' course, which is How to Win in Court. I have so many people that have been suffering discrimination over these last few years, and they find it so difficult to get legal representation. There are a number of people who are taking these things on their own. They're going through your course. And I remember you telling me that when you were studying the rules of evidence, didn't you have an entire semester-long course on that topic?
2 semesters.
And what did you find out about that?
It was a waste of time. Because it really is. It's so simple. I'm not trying to boom the course. It's not appealing for me to do that, but nonetheless, in about 2 hours, read slowly. Think about each thing you read. Don't try to read it like a newspaper, but give it 3 hours. You read the class on evidence, and at least halfway through, you're going to stop and you're going to say, well, this really is common sense. This is not rocket science. It's just a matter of what kind of situation we're going to have in this courtroom to keep people from lying and cheating and twisting everything. And once you understand that, then the next class is objections. And once you know how to object, objection, Your Honor, that we're not going to allow that witness to testify. I'm not going to allow that witness to answer that question and have that nurse tell the jury what the surgeon was thinking. The nurse doesn't know what the surgeon was thinking. This lawyer over here is trying to pull the wool over your eyes. No, objection. It calls for speculation. The nurse doesn't know what the surgeon was thinking, and we're not going to let the jury hear it. But that's not rocket science, Ms. Hall. It doesn't take a very large brain to understand these things that are so incredibly simple that if we only had more people that knew these things, maybe we'd have fewer people who were angry and more people who were just buckling down and saying, excuse me, nope, I will win this case because I know the rules and I know how to object and I know how to control the judge and make him enforce the rules. Well, why not? I mean, why not? Isn't that what people died for, to try to secure this nation from the British? Isn't that what people died for, to prevent Hitler from overrunning Europe so that we could have civilization? Isn't that what people, think how many people died when Pearl Harbor was attacked by those crazy people over there, and how much effort has been spent and blood spilled and lives sacrificed to preserve a nation in which too many Americans today don't really seem to care about the rules that make it possible for them to go down to the grocery store and buy a can of beans that were made in New Jersey or Tennessee. They don't even think about it anymore. And it's time they did start thinking about it, because if they don't start thinking about it and don't start learning these rules that make civilization possible, I don't even want to say it. So I don't even want to allow it to come out of my mouth. We can't even think about it.
Yeah, that I totally am understanding and agreeing with what you're saying there. I would be curious as we wrap up in the next little bit here, if you could give us some success stories from people that have gone through the course, that have taken this action, learned the rules, have stood up for themselves, have gotten justice, anything that comes to mind.
If you put the page up, you can click the testimonials button.
Okay, let's do that.
And they're all real people from all over, even in other countries. Yeah, click that first button there. There. Now scroll down.
Okay. And here's all the information that you'll be taking in the course, friends. Step by step, there are videos, there are quizzes. As Dr. Graves says, you're not reading it like a newspaper.
Look at this one. I won a criminal case at trial with 2 lying witnesses against me. I got in jurisdiction and learned that law works if it's used correctly. The judge read my memorandum and agreed with me. The most wonderful feeling I ever felt was walking out of that courtroom knowing I won without a lawyer. He was going to prison.
Wow.
He was going to prison. And here's someone won $11,000, unemployment benefits. There's $216,000 using the course, sued his employer for violating his copyright. And it just goes on and on. I mean, it doesn't cost a thing to go to the website and click on that testimonials button and read these. There's 250 or more of them, and they're all real people. And so there you go. I mean, people that are not in prison, it could have been people that got their children back, people that won on appeal. And it's just fabulous that I get to do this. And it would be wonderful. It'd be more wonderful if I wasn't so worried about the consequence that we're facing if Americans don't stop being angry and frustrated and critical of things they don't yet even understand. When they can understand it, they can begin to realize America's a wonderful place once you understand the rules, and once we can control the judiciary and stop these people from making these crazy decisions that simply are not American anymore. The idea of the judiciary was supposed to protect the rights of individuals, not rights of collectives, not the right of the government, the right of individuals, not the right of corporations, the rights of individuals.
That's right.
And we can get back to that. We really can. So
I like this one, Dr. Graves. It's not a law course. It's a life course. Armed with jurisdiction area, I was able to defeat one of the biggest junk debt companies and their team of 6 lawyers. There was another one here too, where the person had an attorney and realized that they were going to be, there was going to be something underhanded here. So friends, education and knowledge, these are powerful tools that you have. It's a great opportunity if you're interested in learning about that. And if you feel like, Peggy, I don't have any dispute that I need to settle, that's all right. It's still important that you understand what's going on in that very important branch of government. And I hope that you've taken away from our discussion today that our country and its principles and the values that it was founded on, these are things that are worth fighting for. There's nowhere else that you are going to find that. I am not of the nature to say we need to junk everything and start from scratch. That's another recipe for disaster, in my opinion. What we need to do is stand strong and stand for how this country was created. It's actually a beautiful and elegant system, unlike any other political system on earth. And I think that's part of what has happened is people have forgotten that. They see what's going on in Canada, our neighbor, not realizing that they have allegiance to a monarchy. We were the only country that was founded on the principles that all men were created equal and that we didn't have an allegiance to one person that could rule above us. And that's what I've been fighting for all these years. And I'm grateful to have you on, Dr. Graves. I'll give you the last word if there's anything we didn't cover in I think of this kind of as an encouragement call that we had today to let people know that what we have here is worth fighting for.
Well, Miss Hall, I just wish there were 1 million people like you. That would solve the problem right there.
Well, let's keep our get-togethers going so that we can encourage people. I am excited about learning more. I love increasing my knowledge, because that's way that I feel, one of the ways that I feel empowered against the darkness. They can't take that away from me. And I'm grateful to have you, Dr. Graves. I'm so glad that you put your years of knowledge into this course. It's, as you say, simple to follow. You can learn it, you can study it, you can go back, you can be inspired by others. And let's focus on the positive. Yeah, and help others as well. So thank you so much for being on board. Look forward to our next get together. We have been doing this from time to time, and we'll continue to do so. So thank you. God bless. Thank you, everybody who's been watching. And I look forward to seeing you in an upcoming broadcast.